Okay, so where do I begin? I really want to document, and not just for all of you, but also as like a diary to document this moment, which I want to look back to. So here I am, 6 months postpartum, finally ready to speak about the second half of my pregnancy journey. It just feels like the right time. I have a lot to share with you all, and yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, before I begin, just a little recap of what happened in the previous video. I spoke about how we found out about the pregnancy, how we did long distance during pregnancy, how we figured out health insurance, things like that, like all the boring stuff. And I'm gonna speak about those last 3 months where it starts to get real and you're getting ready to meet this new person who's going to change your life and who's going to be such an important part of your life, before you actually realize how that's even going to happen. So the last video I had Sankalp, who was behind the camera, asking me questions and making sure I don't forget to talk about anything. And for this video I have Tarun, who is here in Canada. We were very lucky that he got to spend time with Advait and help me in my postpartum journey. And yeah, so let's begin. Okay. I feel like I should speak a little bit more about where I am right now, like mentally, physically. I haven't really been feeling like myself at all, like in any way. And everyone during pregnancy, they keep telling you that, oh my God, aren't you excited to meet the baby? Like, this whole new person. And no one really tells you that you're also going to meet another new person, which is going to be like a new version of you, and that is something that really no one can prepare you for. So let's go back in time. Let's go to month 6 to 7 of pregnancy, where we found out the gender. And I want to start that story a little bit before I speak about postpartum. So we went for the ultrasound scan, which tells you the gender of the baby. And the technician asked us, she said, do you want to find out right now, like should I tell you? And Sankalp and I had spoken about this beforehand, and we decided that we don't want to find out in the presence of anyone. We really just sort of want to have like a private moment. In instances like that, when you mention to the technician that you don't want to find out, but obviously they have to inform the doctor, and they just like write it down on a piece of paper and put it in an envelope, seal it, and just hand it to you. And it had written on it fetal sex. So we bring the envelope home after the scan. Sankalp and I decide to look at it after a day or two. We just wanted to process, everything that's been happening, and we couldn't contain our curiosity. And when I say we, I mean Sankalp. Okay, Sankalp could not contain his curiosity. He had to know. It was so surreal finding out whether we're having a baby boy or a baby girl.
We are placing bets, right? Yeah.
I mean,
I am saying it's gonna be a girl because of.
I don't want it to be like anything. I want either gender is like fine for me, but I have a feeling.
I know I'm going to lose because like every time she's gonna be right.
Yeah. I have a feeling that it's a boy. Okay. I've had it right from the beginning. So that's the only reason I feel like it's a boy. Otherwise, like I would love to have a baby girl as well.
The ultrasound picture. There's a hole in this because
Because you are
because
waiting
the
for the
mother
water bottle.
because the mother is, you know,
Don't you dare.
not on the baby's team. I'm on the baby's team, so
No, that is not
this
true.
the mother did it. Let's do it.
That's right.
You want to do it?
No, you're doing
I'd open half. You open half.
it. No, it's okay.
Why is it so difficult? Oh my god.
She sealed it.
Hard.
You okay?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm so nervous. It's okay. Oh, it's like folded.
Don't.
No, I didn't see. No, I didn't look. It's just folded.
Okay.
Like you can't see through it.
Okay.
This is the.
Oh my god, I can see.
No, you see
I
that?
can see. Something written, I can see.
Don't do that.
Oh my god.
Okay. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
And more nerve-wracking for me because the entire duration of the pregnancy I kept referring to my bump as a he, and I was so certain, I was just absolutely certain that it was going to be a boy. I don't know why I had this feeling, but from the second I found out I was pregnant, I was like, this is a boy. I can feel it. I don't know, I can just feel it in my bones that this is going to be a baby boy. I kept saying things like, he's kicking, he's moving, I can feel him do this, he's hungry, you know, things like that. Sankalp still thought that he had a chance. He was like 50-50, you don't know, what if it is a girl? And when we opened the envelope, it's the most hilarious story that I love telling because
Back home,
yeah,
before you go ahead, back home, I also hoped that it would be a girl,
yeah,
but mom was certain that if you were certain, it's 100% gonna be that gender,
yeah.
and yeah, it just happened.
I think even dad said, like, when we asked, you know, our parents on video call and stuff, and dad was like, I want a girl, but I feel like it's a boy. And as much as I also would have loved a daughter, and it didn't matter to anyone really what the gender was,
Yeah.
we opened the envelope, and unfortunately, they have written both the genders on that sheet of paper, and they've circled one. So Sankalp opens it and gets all excited, doesn't open the paper fully, and sees only the female, gender written on it, and he gets so excited and he thinks it's a girl, and he's celebrating. And then it takes him like a split second. It's like a microsecond of a reaction where he sees that, oh, there's a male as well, and that's the gender that's circled. It was such a fun moment, but also so emotional. You know, we just hugged each other and just sort of sat down together, just absorbing the moment and the news, which was, you know, going to change our lives.
I have a question for you. So, how did it become real for you? How did this pregnancy start affecting your day-to-day routines, or you know, how did it hit you first that yes, you're going to be a mother?
One of the first moments where I really remember sensing, you know how in the first trimester I spoke about my nausea and like feeling tired, but you couldn't really see that on the outside, right? With the weight gain, that was my first struggle, because for most of my life, like, I've been petite, you know, I've associated myself with, you know, looking a certain way. And as soon as month 7 began, 7-8, I remember seeing like stretch marks on my belly for the first time ever, and I panicked. I was terrified, and that was really the moment where it hit me.
So, how is like sleeping, and like how did you personally feel about your body?
Initially, like, the thing that bothered me was, you know, oh, I look differently, but after that it was really mostly what was happening on the inside, how it was affecting my movements, because I was getting heavier by the week. You know, the frequency of my doctor's appointments was increasing in the last 2 months. I had to go every 2 weeks now, and not just once in a month. So there was just so much focus on my body, and, you know, me being able to house this baby. I couldn't sleep, like, especially the last month. It was really difficult. I literally was tossing like a rotisserie chicken. Like that is like the perfect analogy that I can come up with. Especially at night, I would just be tossing so much, and Sankalp would have to almost roll me off the bed. It was the middle of winter. It was the middle of a serious winter. I couldn't bend down to tie my shoes. Sankalp would wake up every morning at 6 a.m. With me just to help me get dressed, get ready, and tie my shoes, my snow boots on for me. And it was nice to be taken care of, but also that sense of dependency where you feel like I have to bother Sankalp again with this. He has to do this for me again, or he has to help me get up from the couch. I was unable to physically move and get up. So yeah, it was a lot of physical changes.
So, other than the physical side of this, how do you think it affected you socially and especially mentally?
Socially, I would say, I think especially being a student on campus, being able to work, but both my roles had so much to do with interacting with students on a day-to-day basis, and the first thing they would notice would be my belly, right? So that's straight where the eyes go, and they would be like, oh my god, you're pregnant, oh my god, why are you working, oh my god, how are you studying, why are you studying, what is the need for this, you should be at home relaxing. And there were a lot of external things being said, like comments and questions being asked, but none of it really bothered me as much. I felt extremely lucky to have Sankalp support, and it was just the two of us just really enjoying every day of the pregnancy. Towards the end, we were trying to be more conscious, and the more serious questions were kicking in, about birth. When we went to the doctor, and the doctor said, okay, so what's your birth plan, do you have one? And I realized that I do not have a birth plan. I've never heard of a birth plan. I literally have no idea what a birth plan means. But that really got me thinking, do I have anything set in stone, or do I feel like, oh, it has to happen this way? And I realized not really. I was okay with just going with the flow, and I think that's one of the first things you learn about motherhood. I also felt that I was having a completely different student experience than the rest of my peers were. There were moments when I felt like no one can understand what I'm going through, because no one else is going through it. Just like all things in life. So there were moments where I just tried to normalize it, even to myself, and not feel extra special about it. I don't know if that is the right way to process it, but I just wanted to feel as normal as possible even during my pregnancy. So I kept working right up until 39 weeks. I was still going to classes, and just even the thought of having no epidural was, I think, sort of motivated by that. I really wanted to be able to, if it was medically possible, experience natural birth, time those contractions, see if my water breaks naturally. And I think that pain and birth changes you forever.
Okay, so after the birth, right after,
Yeah.
what were your first reactions, your first feelings, emotions, and your plan of action, if you had any?
We were going in with no plan, okay, and I love that about us, that we have that ability to adapt with whatever comes our way. So birth basically rocks your world. Let me just put it that way. Everything changes. The world as you know it is completely different than what it was yesterday. You're emotionally in such a vulnerable place, hormonally in such a vulnerable place also, and also physically. you've given birth, you're bleeding, you are lactating, you have to figure out how to take care of this like tiny little newborn that's just sort of given to you, and you just leave with this baby from the hospital. For more details on the birth and how we did that, you should watch the birth story video that Sankalp and I recorded, speaking about the entire process and everything that we did. If you haven't already watched it, yeah.
So you've talked about the physical changes, the emotional changes that you felt. Do you want to talk about maybe how you were mentally postpartum?
Okay. Just takes me back to a completely different place. I believe I was less confident as a new parent than Sankalp was. Maybe because I was still adjusting to, I was still recovering, and I was still focusing on my healing so much that I was terrified of, taking care of the baby. It was just learning on the go, like every single day. Like no one tells you these things. There's no, parenting manual anywhere. You just learn. Every day there's something. I remember when Sankalp and I would go out for walks with Advait when we started. It was just like tiny little adventures, like a 5-minute walk at first. The first day we forgot his diaper bag. The second day we forgot like his bottle, or the third day we forgot his socks, and every day we would forget something. The next day we would remember that, and that's how we just now sort of have like a list that we follow. So now we don't forget anything. and even though during the pregnancy I was telling myself, you're doing nothing different than what women have been doing for centuries, the experience is still new. We're still having that experience for the first time in our lives.
So you said that you felt a bit embarrassed maybe when your baby cried in public.
I want to correct myself. I think the correct word is fear. I was actually scared. I think the biggest challenge is regulating your own emotions around the baby. And because you have to be calm, like, someone in the room has to be calm, and it's got to be an adult, it's got to be you, which is difficult because we don't really understand so much of ourselves either at this point. And that's really, I think, the crux of what the parenting journey has even ahead for us, is that we have to know how to not lose our cool, or lose our temper around Advait while he's growing and learning and seeing new things for the first time. Of course he's a baby, and babies can't talk, babies can't really communicate as well as we do, but he still can sense emotions. He can still sense if you're confidently holding him, or if you're feed, like when you're burping him after a feed, whether you're holding him the right way. I also think that giving birth in Canada is a blessing, and I think giving birth in India would have been extremely different in for multiple reasons. Yeah, it's just really tough to show up every single day for your baby when you're going through so much yourself, and we only have 24 hours, so it's really hard to just be there for Advait, make sure that he doesn't experience any of the negativity or any non-positive emotions that you're feeling as a new mom, and also support him in his growth, be able to feed him, be responsible for him, as well as take care of yourself in that time.
So after becoming a mom, what were the changes, or better yet, how did it affect the relationship between you and Sankalp?
Okay. Okay, this is a real one. I'm gonna be very honest. I'm gonna be like extremely truthful.